Hi, my name is Bente, I'm the Norse Witch, and today let's talk about probably the only thing that I use in every single one of my spells and also in every single ritual that I perform, and that is my breath. So without further ado, let's look at how we can use our breath in magic and ritual. Okay, first of all, we can look at this from various different angles. We can look at this from the angle of mythology and philosophy. We can look at it biologically. We can look at it strictly magically. We can look at it from different magical models, so either from the spirit model or the energy model or the psychological model. So there are various different angles that we're going to look at today. Let us start with the angle of mythology and philosophy. As you probably know, the breath is insanely tied to our life force and to our spirit and to our soul in various different cultures, philosophies, and also various different religious mythologies. For example, we can see it in ancient Greece and ancient Rome. We can see it in India, in ancient Egypt, in China. And if we look at religious mythologies, what we see a lot is this concept of a deity transferring life and the soul and life energy into us humans, or something that we humans were made from. If you are a Norse pagan, then you probably know that that exists in Nordic mythology, where Odin gave the breath of life to Ask and Embla, the first humans. But it also, and a lot of you might know that, it also exists in Judaism, and because it was a part of Judaism, it was kind of taken into Christianity and Islam as well. Of course, this correlation of the breath with life force, with our soul, makes a lot of sense if we think about the fact that we literally need to breathe to stay alive. So it's vital, like blood. And of course, magically speaking, we can draw on that. So for example, if you are a person who likes to include mythology or folklore into their spell work and you work in the spirit model of magic, then of course you can totally draw on this by basically breathing life into your spell work, into items that you're awakening, into a spirit. So for example, I like to do this with my tarot cards. Whenever I start working with my tarot cards or my runes or whatever divination system or divination tool, I like to breathe on it to awaken it. You can also do that with bigger spell work. So usually the last thing I do before I end the spell or I finish the spell is that I breathe onto it or into it to awaken the spirit of the spell. So I kind of see my spell work as merging different energies and spirits together to create a spirit in the end. So in the end, the spell itself creates a spirit, and I'm breathing life into it by using my own breath, and usually an incantation or a charm or a chant of some kind. But if you're not working in the spirit model of magic, but the energy model, you can still use this concept. Instead of thinking of the way that you use your breath to awaken a spirit, you can also use your breath in a way to transfer your energy. So it's still your life force, but whereas someone working in the spirit model of magic would use it to awaken a spirit or to speak to a spirit, you would more so use it to transfer your life force into something, or to transfer, for example, your words into something, to charge an item, for example. Now, if we look more specifically at ancient Greek philosophy, and then of course all of the other occult practices that drew on the ideas from ancient Greek philosophy, then we of course also have this aspect of the breath signifying the element of air. And sometimes, I think specifically in Stoicism, it is actually air and fire, because the breath is so related to your soul. That's why the fire comes in. But most people would probably see the element of air being represented by the breath. So of course you can also draw on that to bring the air element into a spell. So if you're, for example, using the energy model of magic, then you can not only use your breath to transfer your own energy into a spell, but also to charge an item, for example, with air energy. In this way, of course, you can also use your breath to signify a storm or wind. So if you, for example, would normally go outside and charge something with wind and there is no wind, you can use your breath to substitute the wind. Or what you see also a lot in different folk magic practices. In trolldom, it's definitely a thing, and I've seen it being talked about from other traditions as well, is using your breath actually to bring wind. So especially with sailors, for example, if you are a sailor and there is no wind, you are not going anywhere. So the breath was used to manifest wind, and especially good wind, so that you could sail. And now lastly, especially if you work with the energy model of magic and you are thinking about your breath representing wind, for example, you can also use it to cleanse items. So you can breathe on them and visualize your breath taking away any kind of stagnant energy or unwanted energy. Now, another angle to look at breath is, of course, biologically. The breath has a big impact on both our physical body and also on our mind and our psyche, our mental state. So the breath can be used in various ways. It can be used to bring yourself into altered states of consciousness. It can sometimes accidentally happen that you use your breath in a wrong way and get yourself into like a panic attack or some severe anxiety, but it can also be used to bring you out of that. So while, for example, if you are anxious, then you're usually breathing very shallowly and not into your belly, for example, and usually pretty quickly. If you focus on breathing very deeply into your belly and in a very calm manner, that way you can actually get yourself out of that state. So it kind of works from both ways. So it's not like it is your specific state of mind that induces some kind of specific breathing, but it's also the other way around. You can also use your breathing to get yourself into a specific state of mind. And that effect is actually also used in a lot of different religions and philosophies and practices, especially a lot of Eastern philosophies and practices use that. So most people will probably be familiar with the use of breath in yoga practices, but it's also used, for example, in Chinese practices like Qigong. I don't know how it's pronounced. I am very sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. And Taoism. I hope this was pronounced correctly. I don't know. If I'm pronouncing this wrong, then please tell me in the comments, because I don't know. But yeah, in a lot of Eastern practices, it is used to get yourself into a specific state of mind. This is also a big part in meditation, for example. A lot of times you are told to get into an altered state of consciousness by breathing deeply, breathing into your belly, focusing on your breath. So this is, of course, a big part of ritual. And for a lot of people, this is also a huge part of preparing, not only for ritual, but also for preparing for spell work. A lot of people like to meditate, for example, and use their breath to get themselves into an altered state of consciousness before spell work to more effectively be able to cast the spell. And then lastly, something that is very, very important for me, because I like to work with incantations and chants and charms, anything where I use my voice, is that, of course, there is no speaking and chanting and singing without your breath. If you weren't breathing, you wouldn't be able to use incantations, charms, etc. Because your breath is what carries your voice. So it is your breath that carries the voice not only into objects, but also into the other worlds, to spirits, to deities. It can also be such an amazing offering. You can not only use your breath to carry your incantations and spell work, but you can also use it to communicate with spirits and deities, and therefore you can also use it to carry your offering into the other worlds. So for example, you can use it to read poetry as an offering, you can use it to sing. Singing is such an amazing offering, and you can also simply use your breath as an offering, because it is so tied to your soul and to your life energy. Breath itself can be a great offering. But yeah, with that being said, that is everything that I have for you today, and I was already cut off by my camera, so I'm taking that as a sign to stop recording. I hope you liked this video. I hope it gave you some ideas on how you could use your breath in ritual and spell work. If you did like this video, then of course give a thumbs up, ring the bell down below so that you're notified whenever I upload a new video, and hype the video. And also, of course, subscribe. You can check out my Instagram if you want to keep more up to date with my private practice, with my private shenanigans. And if you want to support this channel, then check out Patreon or my YouTube membership. And I will see you in another video. Bye!